left and right, they've been investigating what's been going on with these IRS targets, right? I mean, you don't have to be a John Bircher or a George McGovern flamethrower to know that a disproportionate number of conservative groups were given the once-over by the IRS by a factor of 10 to 1. And this is all Congress's fault. I mean, that is a little insulting, folks. I don't care where you stand, on the political ladder, but that's a little weird. And it also makes this next guy wince. He's running for president of the United States, Senator Rick Santorum, on that. But to your point, Senator, and we touched on this in the past, this is what happens when government gets so big and so unwieldy. Accountability goes, too.
Well, accountability goes. But look, the bottom line is this president has created an atmosphere of going after your opponents. And that permeates through the government. And I don't think there's any doubt that the divisiveness of this president, the way he has ruthlessly gone after the other side, is a signal to everybody else in the government.
Well, do you think it's in response to the fact that he thinks Republicans are always piling on him, and that it's like, you guys did this, they did that? It's just bad. It's just awful.
Look, I'd like to think that it's just a response, but it's not a response. The president sets the tone. It's like going into a classroom as a teacher. You can say, well, the kids are misbehaving. The teacher sets the tone. And this president set a tone in Washington as soon as he came in, and it was one of division. We're going to ram it down your throat. We're not going to pay attention to anybody else. We don't want anything bipartisan. And anybody who opposes us, we impugn their integrity. We question their motives.
But he's actually going further, right? So he's saying here, and again, I don't care what your political views are here. There is nothing there. There is no targeting going on. And these very agencies are the ones who said, we are looking into said targeting that we know is going on.
Well, no, the agencies have admitted. The Inspector General at the IRS said, yes, this is going on. So here we have another case where, well, you can keep your insurance policy if you want to, where the president goes out and spins. You can call it spin, or you can call it not telling the truth to the American public. I think there's now a pretty clear track record that the president went out there and said, we're going to have snapback sanctions, and we're going to have verification like has never before occurred. All of that is not true. Everybody who looks at the agreement knows it's not true. But what the president hasn't changed his tune.
But do you think it's a run-out-the-clock thing, Senator? And both parties have used this in the past, where you just sort of make the problem go away by delaying the investigation, delaying to the point where people just forget about it. Summer, it's going to be August soon. People have other things on their minds. This just goes away.
Well, I mean, clearly the Justice Department has now been looking at this for a long time, and we haven't seen any activity. Someone's head should have rolled based upon what was going on at the IRS.
But in the list of top 10 issues Americans are worried about, this registers nowhere.
It fits into the point that you talked about, which is the over-intrusiveness of the federal government and the fear that people have about the government not being honest, the government not being someone you can trust. There's one thing to not trust government generally. There's another thing, if you don't trust your institutions to do what they're being asked to do. And I think we're now reaching a point where more and more Americans look at the whole debate about arming our men and women in uniform in the military at these civilian sites. You have people out there on the right saying we can't do this because they don't trust the American military anymore. That fundamental mistrust of institutions is not good if you're a conservative or liberal. It's not good, period. And in my opinion, it's being fomented by a president who simply is not trustworthy.
Well, as a former senator, and you know the 67 Senate no votes they need to override a likely presidential veto of their rejection of this deal. I'm getting the sense, Senator, from the administration, certainly from the Secretary of State, that they've got UN clearance for this, a unanimous read at the UN Security Council to approve this deal, which leads me to believe that with or without American participation, all those sanctions that all those countries who voted for that will be rescinded. So Iran, if I'm Iran looking at this, maybe I don't care what America does.
Well, the president has put the American Congress, United States Congress in the position he's put it in a lot of other things. I'm going to do this. I don't really care what you do. I'm going to go ahead and use my pen and my phone and do whatever I want and try to stop me. And that's pretty much what the president has done. He basically sold a bill of goods saying, yeah, I'll support this measure.
Are you a lawyer?
I am.
Okay, so I'll defer to the legal mind here. Is the president on fair legal ground to say an international agreement approved in the UN supersedes whatever a member country is coming up with?
No, unless it's a treaty that's ratified by the Congress. The answer is no, it does not.
Well, they're going full steam ahead with my view that I just...
Of course they are, because that's his view is that whether it's international treaty or whether it's an executive order on executive amnesty, this
president... let's say you became president, and now that you've inherited this, what would you do?
I think the reason that the Europeans are going along with it is not because they're necessarily enthusiastic about it, is that they are deferring, as we do in Eastern Europe and everywhere else. They defer to the United States. Whether the president is prepared to lead doesn't really matter to the rest of the world. He is leading whether he wants to or not.
Yeah.
And in this case, he's leading. And Europe isn't going to object. But what a new president will be able to do is we'll have probably a year now of this agreement in place. There's no doubt in my mind that Iran will have violated those sanctions. There's no doubt in my mind that Iran will be a much more virulent supporter of terrorism. And the new leader of the free world, whoever that president is, and I hope it's me, will be able to go to our allies and lead again and get those to come along. The problem, as we all talk about, is China and Russia. China and Russia didn't want to be part of this in the first place, and that's where President Obama has put us behind the 8 ball.
All right, you talk about if you become president, you're still being treated like Rodney Dangerfield in this race. You've won Iowa in the past. You won a whole bunch of
11 states.
Second
11
in
states.
the last current.
Yeah.
And yet you're always treated the same way. Does that bug you? It would bug me.
No, well, you know what? Sometimes, careful what you ask for. And maybe being the top of the pack right now isn't a good place to be. Here's what I know. The folks who were at the top of the pack 4 years ago didn't win a single delegate.
But I think there would be some gravitas that comes with being the second place finisher and the guy who won all those states and ultimately won Iowa. I mean,
look, I've always been an outsider. I've always been someone who's taken on the establishment and fought City Hall, and we don't get a lot of money from folks in this town or folks in the big cities in America.
Well, you get Foster Freeze.
Wyoming. Yeah. So
you're not hurting for money.
Well, of course, ricksantorum.com is the website, and I am hurting from I don't know if a single candidate out there says they're not hurting for money.
But they don't have nearly as many kids as you do. You have 48 children, and they're all canvassing.
And one of them is here. My daughter Sarah is here with me tonight.
They're a beautiful family.
Well, everybody's doing well. We feel very blessed. But the bottom line is, what matters is not what goes on in July. As I said, what happens in July stays in July. What happens in February is what matters.
Well, that's right. And you were nowhere a couple of weeks before that thing. I remember that.
Yep.
Thank you, Senator. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Rick Santorum.